we move on to the Blue Shield Working Group on the Trafficking of Cultural Property and its chair, Patty Gerstenblith. Patty, over to you.
Thank you, Peter. And I want to begin actually with a different hat on, which is representing the U.S. Committee of the Blue Shield, of which I am the board chair. I want to bring congratulations and best wishes to Blue Shield International for its 25 years of work and for its future options as we all work together to improve cultural heritage protection. I also particularly want to thank not only Peter, but particularly Emma for all of her really hard work over both the last couple of days and of course, even before that. There have been many moving parts. I've been able to see several of them, maybe not all of them. And I appreciate just how much effort and dedication she's put into this work. So I am speaking to you more technically on behalf of what I think is the newest element of Blue Shield International, which is the working group on illegal trafficking in cultural objects. We have changed our name a few times in the last couple of days, but I think this is the one that we will be sticking with. In 2017, 2018, and 2019, under the direction of Joanne Farchak-Bajali, from whom you will be hearing on a different topic following me, she is the head of a Lebanese non-governmental organization, Baladi. Joanne, and with the assistance of Neil Brody, began a 3-year training program. This training program was aimed to training particularly Lebanese and Syrian, and later also with the addition of Iraqi law enforcement, attorneys, archaeologists in the interception and restitution of cultural objects that have been illegally trafficked, whether looted or stolen. One of the things that's unique about the program was the emphasis on disrupting the market in the market countries, and how the countries of origin, the countries from whom cultural property had been stolen or looted, would be able to work with the market countries, as I said, not only to return objects, but more importantly, to try to disrupt the market so that the incentive to loot, the economic incentive to loot and steal would thereby be reduced. The training was for 3 years, as I mentioned. In the first year was just Lebanese and Syrians, and then Iraqis joined in years 2 and 3. Not only were new trainees brought in, but also a program developed in years 2 and 3 of training of trainers as well, so that they would be able to go back to their countries and help to train additional individuals. And you can see here the breakdown by various professions, lawyers, archaeologists in particular, who were involved in the training. The total number of people trained over the 3 years was 90 individuals, and you can see more women than men. The program was under the leadership first of Joanne Farchak-Bajali, as I mentioned, with the great co-assistance of Dr. Neil Brody of the Amina Project at Oxford University. Several of the trainers came from market countries, the US, Switzerland, the UK, as well as representatives from inside Lebanon. And several international organizations, both governmental and non-governmental, were involved as well, including Interpol, the Art Loss Register, experts from Egypt, Syria, the ICOM in Lebanon, and Lebanese security forces. So it was quite, and there were other individuals representing different organizations as well. Throughout, we had the support of Blue Shield International, and particularly in the last year when we did a roundtable discussion at the Lebanese National Library, Karl von Habsburg, who at the time was the president of Blue Shield International, participated. And so from the beginning, I think we felt a connection with Blue Shield, one which then led us at the conclusion of the training to begin to work more closely with Blue Shield. But little did we realize at the time of the first training in 2017 how soon our experience and network would become relevant to the recovery of antiquities looted and stolen during armed conflict. A few months before the spring 2017 training, it was discovered that a bullhead, which had been excavated at the site of Tel Eshmoun in southern Lebanon in the 1960s, but then stolen from storage during the Lebanese Civil War. We discovered that the bull's head was on loan from the New York collector, Michael Steinert, to the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. One of the Metropolitan curators recognized the bull's head and contacted Lebanese authorities about the possibility of returning the sculpture. Following initial litigation, and with assistance given to the Lebanese government through contacts and the network developed during the Esterdad training program, Lebanon was able to present a compelling case for restitution of the bull's head. With assistance from the Assistant District Attorney in New York, Matthew Bogdanis, not only was the bullhead recovered, but this led to the recovery of 4 additional sculptures, so 5 in total, and you see them here in the Lebanese National Museum after their return. So not only were these sculptures returned as a result of the training program, but little did we realize at the time that this was the beginning of the story and not the end. After the last Esterdad training in 2019, 4 of us, Joanne, Neil, myself, and Finola Rogers, a UK art law attorney and now president of UK Blue Shield, proposed to Blue Shield International that the Esterdad network be expanded and made permanent as part of Blue Shield International as a working group on illegal trafficking of cultural objects. The working group had provisional approval from the Blue Shield board for 2 years, and in the summer of 2021, it was placed on a more permanent basis. The purposes of the working group are to maintain a network of experts on the international market and on international and national laws, provide information to Blue Shield International, especially for the website, on efforts to inhibit international trafficking of cultural objects, to respond to requests for information, to comment on proposed government actions, and provide expert advice and act as a liaison between countries from whom cultural objects are stolen and the market countries where these objects so often appear. Members of the working group are available to consult with individuals and government representatives from countries that have suffered from theft and looting and appropriation of cultural property, and assist them in their efforts to trace and recover stolen and looted cultural objects. The primary goal of the working group is thus to assist efforts to understand and recover, when appropriate and feasible, illegally trafficked cultural objects. The members of the working group have undertaken numerous activities over the past 2 years, 2 examples of which I will return to in a few moments. But to summarize these activities, we have provided advice and expert analysis to law enforcement agencies in the US and the UK, assistance to foreign embassies located in the US and the UK, including the Embassy of Iraq, published articles and spoken at conferences in the efforts to increase public understanding of the detriments caused by looting and theft, and similarly assisted journalists in understanding these issues. Several of us participated in webinars concerning the situation in Nagorno-Karabakh and prepared a document on best practices for how to deal with cultural objects that might be removed during armed conflict. In the UK, emphasis was placed on the impact of Brexit on trafficking issues. Joanne Farchak assisted Lebanon's Department of Antiquities in uploading the art loss register documentation of stolen artifacts. In the future, we would like to expand these efforts, provide educational materials to Blue Shield International's website, and establish a consultancy, with quotes around the word consultancy, that will continue to offer assistance to countries from which cultural objects have been illegally taken. As you have likely noticed, there is a heavy US-UK presence in these activities. These countries are where the largest market is located, and our goal is to disrupt the market, primarily at the destination end, and thereby reduce the incentive to traffic illegally in cultural objects while achieving restitution. Unfortunately, much of our work with law enforcement has had to remain confidential for obvious reasons. However, by coincidence, recently, two investigations or two episodes have become public, and I can therefore speak about them. The first of these was the restitution during the past summer to Iraq of 17,000 looted artifacts, most of which were looted either during the 1990s as a result of the first Gulf War or following 2003, the second Gulf War. Expert advice was provided to the Iraqi embassy in the United States, which assisted in these restitutions. And following the restitution of those objects, the Gilgamesh Dream Tablet was also returned to Iraq and just this past September as well. But also more recently, in fact, just last week, by coincidence, a large-scale investigation of Michael Steinert was concluded, and therefore I can speak about this publicly. Steinert has a very large collection of antiquities in New York. And as I said, the Bull's Head investigation was just the tip of the iceberg because it enabled the New York Assistant District Attorney, again, Matthew Bogdanis, to investigate the collection on a much larger scale. The network or the working group provided expert analysis of the ownership laws of the various countries from which these artifacts have been taken. And additional advice was provided on trafficking networks themselves. This led to the restitution, or the upcoming soon restitution, of 180 trafficked objects with a reported market value of $70 million. Of these, several of the objects were things that, as with the Bull's Head, had been taken during armed conflict. And this ties our work more closely to the work of Blue Shield International. Two of those objects were from the Steinert collection, the Bull's Head that I mentioned before, and an object which, a statue which has been called the Calf Bearer. Other objects in the Steinert collection are probably linked with looting that occurred during the 2003 Gulf War, including a statuette taken from Syria. But the last object I want to mention, this gold bowl, interestingly, was purchased by Michael Steinert in 2020. So even while he and his collection were being investigated by New York law enforcement, he nonetheless purchased at that time a gold bowl from, most likely originating from the site of Nimrud in Iraq, first known on the market in 2019. We anticipate that more of our work will become public over time, but I think the two examples of the Iraqi restitution and the restitutions from the Steinert collection demonstrate the close connection between looting and armed conflict and potentially also natural disaster. We hope that more of our work will become public and the ongoing current investigations will be things we can talk about. But of course, by then we will be engaged in new consultations, new advising, and new investigations, which will likewise remain confidential. I urge you to follow our activities on the Blue Shield International website, and also to contact us at the email address that you have below with questions, with concerns, and particularly if you have information about trafficking and trafficking networks that we should follow up. And with that, I will thank you for your attention.
Patty, thank you very much indeed.